In our last episode, we met Smith, an ordinary guy looking after his grandmother in the town of Oakville. His life took a wild turn when he rescued a girl named Sarah on the street. She was covered in blood and wearing a tattered World War II uniform. As they spent more time together, Sarah revealed a mind-blowing truth. She was actually a U.S. Army courier from the Battle of the Bulge in 1944. While trying to break through enemy lines on an urgent mission, she stumbled into a mysterious white light and was thrown forward in time, landing right here in 2026. Smith and his grandmother were skeptical at first, but they were eventually won over by Sarah's total bewilderment at modern tech and her hauntingly vivid memories of the war. The story highlights the contrast between the brutality of World War II and the precious peace of today through Sarah's wide-eyed reactions to things like microwave meals, skyscrapers, and smartphones. Ultimately, with the love and support of Smith's family, this soldier from 80 years ago began to let go of her battlefield trauma. She started to heal, both physically and mentally, as she learned to find her place in the peaceful world that she and her fellow soldiers had sacrificed everything to build. And now, let's pick up where we left off with the story of Smith and Sarah. Sarah's been staying with us for a while now, and as I've watched her adapt and change bit by bit, I found myself feeling a whole lot more than I expected. What started as shock, curiosity, and sympathy has quietly turned into something much deeper. I'm not sure where this is headed, but one thing's for certain, my life has been completely turned upside down by this soldier from the past. I found myself watching her more and more. I'd catch the serious look on her face as she leaned in toward the TV, trying to pick up modern slang. The sharp, efficient way she handled the shears while helping grandmother tidy up the backyard. And the way her eyes would light up with childlike wonder whenever she saw something new on a smartphone. But then there were those moments when she'd just stare off into the distance, her eyes filled with a heavy, aching sadness for the brothers she left behind on the battlefields of Europe, and seeing her look that vulnerable just broke my heart. There's something about her, a unique quality you just don't find in modern American girls. It's a groundedness forged in the fires of the war against the Nazis, a calm resilience that comes from surviving the unthinkable, and an unwavering belief in freedom and the fight against fascism. She's hardworking, down-to-earth, kind, and incredibly tough. She's like a gemstone polished by the smoke of battle, radiating a brilliant light even in the middle of our ordinary, peaceful lives. I found myself wanting to be around her more and more. I teach her how to use an iPad or tell her jokes from Twitter, watching her get confused by modern pop culture and make the most adorable blunders. She'd listen to me vent about my job hunt, too. Even though the Wall Street jargon went right over her head, she'd look me straight in the eye and comfort me, saying,
"Smith, back in the trenches, we didn't even know if we'd be alive to see tomorrow. Compared to that, what you're going through now is just a temporary hurdle. As long as you grit your teeth and keep pushing, you'll get through this. I know you will."
Her voice was soft, but it always gave me this incredible surge of strength. Honestly, it was more effective than any professional therapy or pep talk I've ever had. Sometimes, I'd be in the garage working on my old pickup truck, and she'd be right there by my side, handing me wrenches. The sunlight would stream in, warming us both. She'd watch me use the power screwdriver, her head tilted in curiosity, and ask,
"You mean you don't have to put any muscle into it? How's it just spinning on its own like that?"
I'd sit there and patiently explain the basics of lithium batteries and tiny electric motors. Even though half of it went over her head, the pure curiosity she had for peaceful technology made her look so incredibly full of life. We'd sit with grandmother and watch TV. But whenever shows like Saving Private Ryan or Band of Brothers came on, the look in her eyes became incredibly complex. Her whole body would instinctively tense up, though she didn't have the same raw, panic triggers she had when she first arrived. Now, it was different, less about the shock of the gore and more of a heavy, suffocating sense of nostalgia that filled the room. Watching modern shows where people lose their minds over a breakup or some tiny everyday drama, she'd look at me, totally baffled, and ask,
Why are they falling apart over something so small? There's no bombing, nobody's starving, and life is so good. Shouldn't they be thanking God every single day?
Her understanding of happiness and hardship is on a completely different level from our generation. To her, a life without the Gestapo, without the constant threat of machine gun fire, and being able to sleep peacefully in a bed that isn't soaked in mud, that's the ultimate happiness. It's made me look back at my own complaining and my uncertainty about the future, and honestly, I felt pretty ashamed. Slowly, I noticed the way she treated me was starting to change, too. That initial guard she kept, the kind of hypervigilance you have against a Nazi spy, had completely vanished. In its place was this deep, soldier-to-soldier trust and reliance. She stopped calling me sir or mister and started just calling me Smith, the same way grandmother does. She'd come to me with questions about the modern world, and sometimes, when I was cooped up in my room playing Call of Duty, she'd knock on the door and ask if I wanted a cup of coffee. Once, I accidentally caught my finger with a utility knife while cutting some paper. It was just a small, bleeding nick. But when she saw it, her eyes instantly went sharp, like a combat medic, and she went into full-on alert mode. She moved fast, grabbing the first aid kit and treating the wound with the kind of standard, rapid, and slightly rough bandaging technique you'd see on the front lines. She knelt on one knee in front of me, looking so focused that I felt this sudden surge of warmth in my chest. After she finished the wrap, she looked up at me, and in her eyes, besides the usual concern for a comrade, I thought I caught a flicker of something else, a soft, feminine tenderness that was hard to miss. Another time, a thunderstorm hit the town, and the power went out. The house was instantly plunged into a dead, heavy darkness. I was just about to go look for a flashlight when I heard her whisper softly,
"It's okay. You don't need to be afraid. I'm right here, and I'll protect you."
In that total darkness, with the distant rumble of thunder sounding so much like artillery, the veteran's composure and stillness she radiated were more grounding than any light source could ever be. I fumbled my way over to her side, and by the faint, flickering light of the lightning outside, I saw her eyes still bright and alert even in the shadows. At that moment, I suddenly felt that no matter how much the world fell apart, as long as she was there, I would never be lonely or afraid again. I began to look forward to every single moment we spent together. Watching her laugh, hearing her voice, and explaining everything about this new world, a world finally free from the shadow of fascism. It was incredible to watch her slowly shed the trauma of the war, bit by bit, reclaiming that 1940s optimism and weaving it into the fabric of modern life. I knew it then, I had fallen for her. I was in love with Sarah, the American combat courier from the 1944 Battle of the Bulge, and I truly believed that she, in her own way, had started to feel those same subtle, complicated emotions for me, Smith, just an ordinary guy from 2026. Grandmother definitely noticed something was up. There was this knowing glint in her eye whenever she looked at us, a quiet little smile that said she'd already figured out what we hadn't quite admitted to ourselves yet. She started getting creative with her excuses to leave us alone. Suddenly, she was always out of butter and needed me to take Sarah to the supermarket, or she'd claim her old eyes couldn't handle the screen and insist I sit down and teach Sarah how to use the laptop. I sat there with her, showing her how to look things up on the laptop. She wanted to see how it all ended, to see the conclusion of the war that had defined her life. When the screen flickered to life with the harrowing footage of the Normandy landings and the final, gritty victory in Berlin, her expression shifted into something deeply solemn. It was a mix of profound grief and a sudden, electric surge of emotion. Sitting right beside her, watching the reflection of those historical milestones in her tear-filled eyes, I felt like I could finally reach out and touch the core of who she is, the fierce pride and the burning spirit of an anti-fascist warrior. At that moment, I realized she wasn't just the girl who made cute mistakes navigating modern life. She was a formidable soldier who had been willing to sacrifice everything for a free world. This duality spanning across time and space left me Both heartbroken for what she'd endured and utterly captivated by who she was, I asked her,
Do you want to go see it? To see the places where you fought back then and what they look like now. I can take you there.
She went silent for a moment, then slowly shook her head.
Maybe later. This piece, it's enough for now.
She looked at me, her eyes reflecting a deep, unmistakable attachment that I could finally read. I knew that when she said things are good now, she wasn't just talking about a life without war. She meant having me, having grandmother, and having this warm, safe place to call home. Our relationship began to warm up through those small, accidental moments of touch. When I showed her how to use a touch screen, our fingers would occasionally meet. When she handed me a cup of coffee, our fingertips would brush against each other. Or sometimes, we'd just sit together on the porch in the late afternoon, watching the sunset bleed across the sky. That quiet atmosphere was, in itself, overflowing with warmth. One summer night, a gentle breeze was blowing. Sarah and I were sitting on the grass in the backyard. Grandmother had already gone to bed. The sky was overflowing with stars completely different from the light-polluted haze of New York. Looking up at the night sky, she spoke in a soft voice.
There are so many stars. Back in the Ardennes, the sky was always overcast. It was constantly snowing, and you could never see the stars.
It is. The night sky here in Oakville is something else, isn't it?
She turned her head to look at me. In the faint glimmer of the starlight, I saw an emotion in her eyes that I couldn't quite decipher. Suddenly, she called my name, her voice barely a whisper.
Smith, why are you so good to me? Someone like me, who crawled out from under a mountain of the dead, someone with no real past here. Why are you so kind? You and grandmother both. You treat me so well, like I'm not some crazy person who doesn't belong.
My heart skipped a beat. This was at the moment, the chance to finally say what had been weighing on my chest. I looked into her clear, steady eyes and summoned every ounce of courage I had.
Because of you. Because you are you.
I took a deep breath, feeling my face grow hot. I stumbled over my words for a second, but I decided to just say it.
Sarah, I like you.
The moment the words left my lips, the air seemed to solidify around us. The chirping of the crickets in the summer night suddenly felt deafeningly loud. Sarah's entire body went rigid. I saw a flash of pure shock in her eyes, followed by a cloud of confusion, and finally, a surge of complex emotion that I couldn't immediately decipher. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, staring at me with an intensity that felt like it was searching my very soul. My palms were slick with sweat. My nerves wound tight. I had no idea how she would react. She came from a brutal era where life and death were seen with a certain detached pragmatism. Her way of expressing emotion was bound to be worlds apart from ours. Between us lay more than 80 years of history. It wasn't just an age gap. It was the chasm between two entirely different realities. Would my feelings be a burden to her? Would they only make her feel more lost in a world where she already struggled to find her footing? She looked at me, her gaze shifting slowly from shock to a soft, lingering warmth, and then she smiled. It was a faint smile, tinged with a hint of shyness and a touch of understanding, but it also carried the weary, complex wisdom of someone who had truly lived through life and death.
Like?
She repeated the word, her voice so soft it was as if she were savoring a luxury that only belongs to an era of peace, or perhaps as if she were finally confirming a feeling that had been there all along. I didn't know exactly how she defined liking in her own mind, whether it carried the weight of a wartime promise or the lightness of a modern summer night. But that smile, that look in her eyes, it sent a massive surge of courage and hope rushing through me. I summoned every last bit of my courage and leaned forward, my gaze searching hers with an earnest, burning intensity.
Yes, like, I want to be with you.
She didn't look away and she didn't pull back. She just sat there in the stillness, the gentle night breeze stirring the stray strands of her golden hair.
Like, being together?
Sarah repeated it once more, her voice tinged with a hollow sense of bewilderment and uncertainty, as if she were weighing the literal meaning of the word against the sheer impossibility of her own existence. To someone who should have died in the snow of 1944, the concept of a future, let alone a shared one, felt like a debt she wasn't sure she was allowed to collect. I held my breath, my entire world narrowing down to the space between us. Every second felt like a year. I knew that whatever she said next would define the rest of our lives. It was the ultimate crossroads. Would this connection remain a beautiful, impossible glitch in time, or would we find the courage to bridge the 80-year gap and build something real? She lifted her head, gazing toward the distant night sky, and her voice became low and far away.
Smith, thank you, and your grandmother. I am so grateful to have come here, to have met you both. The days here have been so warm, so safe. It's the kind of peaceful life I never even dared to dream of while I was in the trenches.
She paused, a flash of bottomless pain flickering in the depths of her eyes.
But I don't belong here. I still have my brothers, Captain Miller and the others. They're still out there in that freezing hell, waiting for those coordinates. They're still bleeding, still dying, being crushed under the treads of German tanks. Also that the freedom I see today could exist.
My heart sank. I knew exactly what she was about to say. She looked at me, her eyes hardening with a grim, sacrificial resolve, the same look I'd seen when she described the bloodbath in the Ardennes. It was the gaze of an American soldier staring down death, and it flickered across her face now with haunting clarity.
My mission, it isn't finished yet. I can't stay here.
I tried to reach out and grab her hand, but she stepped back, deftly avoiding my touch. I spoke with a desperate, frantic urgency.
But if you go back, it'll be so dangerous. It was a slaughter. You have no idea what's going to happen. You might die.
She spoke flatly, her voice devoid of fear, containing only a sense of resignation and a cold, piercing determination.
Danger and death. They are the fate of us infantry. When I came here, it was because of that shell crater, that flash of white light. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe it was a sign from God, giving me a chance to see the future, to see that our blood wasn't spilled in vain, that fascism finally lost. But in the end, I still have to go back. I have to deliver the coordinates for those German artillery positions.
Right then, from the direction of the oak grove beyond the backyard, the very place where she had first crossed over, a faint, almost imperceptible glimmer of white light flickered. It felt like a ghost of the blinding flash she had described before, only dimmed 1,000 times over. Sarah's body gave a sudden, violent jolt, her gaze instantly sharpening like a stalking leopard's. She bolted upright, staring toward the woods. Her sudden movement startled me, making my heart leap into my throat. I asked her, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and confusion.
What's wrong, Sarah?
The light, it's back. I have to take this chance.
She looked at me, her eyes a storm of conflicting emotions. There was gratitude, a deep-seated reluctance to let go, and a flicker of apology, but rising above it all was a sense of mission so resolute it bordered on cruel.
Smith, thank you. Thank you, and thank your grandmother. Knowing both of you, it has been the greatest fortune of my life.
You're leaving now.
I have to go. My army is still waiting for me. My mission is more important than my life. Remember, World War II was won. The free world was saved. These peaceful days you have now, where you don't have to hear the air raid sirens. We bought them with our lives on the battlefields of Europe. Treasure them.
With those final words, she dashed back into the house. In a blur of frantic movement, she stripped off the modern clothes and pulled on her old, blood-stained uniform, the heavy wool scratching against her skin like a familiar burden. She checked the crumpled intelligence map tucked deep in her breast pocket one last time, ensuring the coordinates that would save her brothers were still there. Then, without a single backward glance, she sprinted toward the dark silhouette of the oak grove. Her silhouette looked so frail against the vastness of the night, yet it carried a resolve so fierce it was almost blinding, a lonely, unbreakable figure sprinting back toward an era that could only be described as hell on earth.
Sarah.
I screamed, my voice tearing through the quiet night as I broke into a desperate sprint. My lungs burned and my heart hammered against my ribs, but the gap between us only widened. When I reached the edge of the woods, I saw only a flash of blinding white light, and then everything returned to silence, leaving nothing but the rustle of the night wind through the leaves. She was gone, just as she had suddenly appeared, without any warning and in total silence. She vanished from my world of peace. At that moment, the world felt like it was spinning out of control, and a massive wave of loss crashed over me, drowning me in its depths. It felt as though my heart had been brutally torn open by a German bayonet. The pain was so sharp I could barely breathe. I collapsed onto the cold, muddy ground, staring into that pitch-black, silent grove of oaks as tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. She's gone, back to 1944, to the crossfire and the meat grinder of war. She chose her brothers in arms and her mission over staying here by my side, with someone who loved her, to enjoy a peace that was never meant to be hers. Even though I had long sensed this day would come, knowing all along that a vast chasm of over 80 years lay between us, the agony of this moment, now that it is truly here, is far beyond anything I could have imagined. I have returned to being alone. The house suddenly feels hollow, emptied of the crisp, steady rhythm of her footsteps, the clumsy clatter of her trying to navigate the dishwasher, and her familiar presence in the kitchen as she helped my grandmother. Grandmother knows she's gone now too. Though she doesn't quite grasp the time travel of it all, she saw my agony and understood Sarah's choice as a soldier. Grandmother comforted me while sighing as she looked at the old, faded photographs.
It's for the best that she's gone. She went back to where she belongs. That girl, she's a true American hero, through and through. And a hero has a battlefield they must return to.
My grandmother comforted me often, cooking my favorite meals and sitting with me to chat. But my heart always felt hollow, as if a piece of it were missing. I would frequently find myself picturing the way she looked eating microwave meals, the look of wonder in her eyes at modern technology, and that haunting mix of dead silence and flickering light in her gaze whenever she spoke of the Ardennes forest. I know that I will never forget her. Time passed, stretching on until the autumn winds swept away the fallen leaves. On the eve of Veterans Day, I went to the National Cemetery on the outskirts of town to visit my grandfather's grave. Grandmother is getting older and her legs aren't what they used to be, so I went alone. Oakville has grown so much over the years, and the National Cemetery has expanded with it vast, solemn, and grand. Following the markers, I found my grandfather's headstone and laid the flowers down. As I turned to leave, I noticed a large, newly developed section adjacent to the original grounds. Rows of white marble crosses stood in perfect, disciplined formation, guarded by a towering monument dedicated to the fallen of World War II. As I drew closer, I saw the inscription, Battle of the Bulge Memorial Section. My heart skipped a beat. The Ardennes, the very forest Sarah spoke of with such haunting clarity. Could her brothers in arms, the men she died to save, be resting here? Drawn by an irresistible, ghostly pull, I stepped into the hallowed ground. The cemetery was profoundly quiet, the only sound being the crisp snap of the stars and stripes fluttering in the wind. There were no elaborate decorations before the white crosses, only a stark, solemn grandeur that felt both tragic and heroic. I looked at them one by one, reading names that were unfamiliar to me. These were the heroes who had sacrificed everything to crush fascism, ancestors who had earned their eternal rest. My heart brimmed with a profound sense of reverence, thinking that Sarah's brothers in arms might be right here among them. I pulled a handkerchief from my pocket and began to wipe the white marble headstones, one by one. I wanted to do something, anything, for the men she might have known. One after another, I cleaned them with painstaking care. My mind was flooded with the frozen hell Sarah had described, and the boundless longing she held for her fallen comrades. I worked in a trance of memory and respect until my hand suddenly froze against one particular marble cross. Engraved on the white marble cross were a few rows of black lettering. U.S. Army, 101st Airborne Division, Combat Courier, Sarah Connor. Killed in action, December 1944, Battle of the Bulge. I stared at that name, and my brain let out a sharp, deafening buzz. Everything went white.
Sarah. How could it be Sarah? How could she be here?
I stood there, dazed, as tears instantly blurred my vision. It wasn't a quiet, restrained sorrow. It was like a dam bursting, a flood of grief surging uncontrollably from my eyes. I could no longer hold it back. Her name tore from my throat over and over. Sarah, Sarah. As I collapsed to my knees before the freezing marble cross, sobbing uncontrollably, my sobs echoed through the absolute silence of the cemetery, sounding jarring and raw. I cried with a heart-wrenching intensity, finally unleashing all the longing, agony, and confusion I had kept suppressed deep inside over these past few months. I ran my fingers over the cold marble, those words, Tomb of Sarah Connor, seeming to silently recount the brutal, unvarnished truth. I cried and cried, weeping until the day itself began to fade. The sun finally dipped below the horizon, leaving me with a raspy, broken voice and eyes swollen from the salt of my tears. But the agony in my chest hadn't lightened for a second. It remained as heavy and immovable as the marble cross before me. I stared at the name on the headstone, and my mind became a chaotic reel of her life. I saw the flashes of the artillery ambush she described, her desperate mission to break through the lines and deliver the message, and that haunted grief in her eyes for her fallen brothers. Then the images shifted her simple satisfaction over a microwave meal, the way she looked when she smiled at me. She chose to go back. She chose to save her company. So she must have completed the mission, right? She must have delivered the coordinates to the artillery? Her sacrifice couldn't have been in vain, could it? Perhaps after she returned, she truly completed her mission, delivering the vital coordinates, saving an entire battalion, and becoming the unsung hero of that brutal battle. And in the end, she was struck down by a German bullet, falling in the frozen era where she belonged. Her name, carved into that white cross in the National Cemetery, now rests in eternal peace alongside her brothers in arms. I wiped away my tears and gently brushed the dust from the marble, as if I were stroking her face once more, the face that had once been stained with the soot and smoke of battle.
Sarah, you completed your mission. Because of you, and because of all of you, the free world we live in today is this beautiful. Thank you.
I choked out the words, my voice thick with a profound sense of pride and an unspeakable, aching grief. In the cemetery, the evening breeze brushed past softly, and the distant, faint sound of a bugle echoed in the air as if whispering the names of those immortal souls. I stood up, took one last look at that white marble cross, turned, and walked step by step through the gates of the National Cemetery. My Oakville once held a true soldier of World War II. Her name was Sarah. She was a hero who saved the world. And I will forever be the Smith who, in the Oakville Square of 2026, was the first to meet her and the one who will love her always.